Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Full Spectrum Project. I am your host, Brian Clune, and I am joined by my co-host.
How y'all doing? This is Pete Hapland. I'm here in the sunny state of Texas, where we are going to have about 60% chance of rain outside.
I'm in California, so we got perfect weather. Just not a perfect economy, but we won't go into that. Anyway, we will also be joined by Angie Mohle, who will join us for our Weird World News segment. And yes,
you
folks,
say that
I do have
slower and slower.
I do.
I'm just letting you know.
I know, but I have to say it like that, or it'll come out as Weird World News or something. Practice, yes.
Practice. That's what I had. Hello.
Okay. Today, we are joined by a special guest who is a renowned and fantastic psychic and also a personal
wait a
friend.
second. Psychic medium.
Psychic medium. Excuse me.
That's okay.
And a personal friend of Pete and I. And unfortunately, she lives close by, so she will probably figure out a way to get even with me for the failure of saying psychic medium. But we are joined by Tiffany Miles, and we're just thrilled to have you here, Tuesday. Please say hello to the audience.
Hello, audience. Hi, everybody. How you guys? Yes, Brian, I know where you live. I got your number on that one, too. Hi, Pete. I think that's Kat. That's Kat in the background somewhere along the line.
She's our producer.
Else out there. She's your producer. Hi, Kat, producer.
Kat is our producer.
And she's on the line, too.
Hi, Angie. Oh, Angie, I got some stories for you.
Uh-oh, this is scary.
Uh-oh. I'm getting Angie stuff all day long. We'll just see what comes up with that. I know it.
I think we'll have to stop now. Does that work?
Yeah, that works. Don't make me laugh the whole time, okay?
We'll try not to. It's real hard for us.
Although we're not going to make any promises.
No promises. All right, that's good with me. I'm like, laughter's good.
Okay, excellent. All right, so Tuesday, just for those in our audience who may not know you all that well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okie dokie. I am a born natural psychic medium. I've had these gifts since I came out of my mom and dad's or my mom's womb. Since my dad helped my mom create me. I am the only one in my family that we know of that actually has these gifts. And nobody else that we have learned shares the same gifts as I do, except for my son is also psychic medium and also a seer. And my daughter is now she's more of a psychic sense on it and coming into more and more of her gifts on it. But mine started off with me noticing eyes floating about the room when I was a baby. And then, of course, they just kept increasing. The more eyes I would acknowledge, the more they would come in. And so being that my parents didn't really believe me, every time when I got old enough to get out of bed and say, hey, there's things floating in my room, they would say, go back to your room, you're just your imagination. I'm like, okay, that's not my imagination. It just,
and then they would send you back into the room that you were having stuff floating around in that you didn't want to be.
Yes. And I didn't want to be. So I learned how to, climb back in bed. I had a dog that would climb up on the bed with me and lay real close with me. And thank God for my stuffed animals and dolls that all surrounded me. That kept me safe, it seemed like. But, there was none of them that was really any aggressiveness towards it. It just was that they approached me. And it was almost like a calming feeling that, hey, we're here. but we're not here to scare you, but for you to actually start getting used to us, because you're going to have a whole lot of us later on. And so, it kind of came and gone throughout the years. I did know that for many years, there were shadows that went up and down the hallway. And that kind of scared me. And I had a really bad experience when I was 18 with a black figure that almost looked like a Grim Reaper. He had red eyes, very big, solid black. I was sleeping, still in the same home, and woke me up in the middle of the night. And I was the only one home. And I sat up and I could see it, and it froze me. It actually, I could not move any part of my body. I was dead, solid, just stuck. And I remember sitting there and thinking to myself and screaming in my own head, going like, let go of me. What's going on here? And then it would let go a little bit of me, and I was able to move like a foot or an arm. And again, it kept doing it. It must have played with me for about an hour before finally, after screaming to God, to help me. And it seemed that's when it let go of me, and I was able to stand up, and then froze me again. And I remember it so clear, like saying to it, if you don't let go of me, when you do let go of me, I'm going to kick your butt. I mean, it's going to be on it. And it let go of me, and it turned around. It like gave me this weird eye. I mean, it just it go through my whole body, and then it just went through the wall and it left. I mean, I was on the phone to my neighbor, and across the street I ran. But the next morning, got a call, and my grandmother had died the same time that thing showed up. Wow. So, to this day, I really don't understand what that was about. I have experienced people that were in that death stage that I had visited, and I was warned when I went there, and heavily attacked that I did not belong there in this room while they were dying. So I don't know if that is something that it has to do with just a medium, that we're not supposed to be in that that area where death is about to happen, and maybe that would be, I don't know whether we're supposed to do anything to interrupt it. I don't think so, but or our knowledge that we're supposed to know anything about it. That part of that transaction is when we go ahead and we start going through our deathbed. So, it's just something I never have really put a lot of thought into why that happened. But,
Sure.
I've just, I've had experiences back and forth, and it wasn't until my mom died that my gifts started really getting heavy. And I was getting a lot of visitations from things all over the place that I could say to this day that some of them, it doesn't belong in this world. It's just, there's got to be another world for that thing to belong in.
Well, when you're having these visitations, how do they appear to you?
First is the gas haze, like
Okay.
heat rising off a hot pavement.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is both where I can recognize it both. When it's the gas, it's kind of like where they're kind of still halfway over there and not here. I mean, they're always going to be in that, I'm just going to say the hallway between here and between the other side, on it, because because we have that transition where we're leaving this world. We're no longer our energy is no longer connected here. We go step up, or we can go step down, but there is that difference of it. There is, and it's almost like I would say it's a parallel, but there is a difference between being living and not being living on that. Can I hear them? Am I going over to where they're at so I can hear them? Or are they coming over here where I'm at? And that's been a debate for many, many, many years that I know with many reputable mediums about understanding, are they here or are we there?
Huh.
Because we see them.
That's actually pretty deep.
Yeah. And Pete, here's just one thing on this, and Brian, in the EVPs that that people record, I've heard on many of it, even my own, it sounds like they're in a tunnel. You hear that like kind of tunnel sound.
Kind of far away thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so if they're right next to us, why are we getting that?
I don't know.
Yeah. See, good question about that, because there was the particular one EVP that we did in my house. I had a team of investigators over here. And it was a little girl. And I remember them asking this little girl, are you friends with the spirits anyways? And you could hear her in a tunnel. I mean, it was very clear she was in that tunnel. So is it the transition tunnel? The one that we go from here, we go through tunnel. We all know that we go through this long tunnel. We get to that point where we go through this light, whether we want to or not, but we do on it. And that's where she was at, but I noticed that a lot about that sound. Have you noticed that, Brian?
No, not too much. Every once in a while, yes.
Okay.
But
and
you
have to.
Well, one of the things you just said, I was kind of curious about. You said that we're drawn to the light whether we want to or not. But how does that explain the spirits that who remain and have been here for like hundreds of years? Okay.
So picture this, Brian, that back in all times that, whether there was, when they had the churches, let's say the churches, whether they were built or they were even outside in a pasture, there was always somebody that was talking about God, always, okay? Mm-hmm. Or something like that. And if you talk back to your mama, you chewed a piece of gum that you weren't supposed to, didn't go to bed on time, you were going to hell. You were deemed a sinner and you're going to hell. And so when they died, they don't want to touch that light because they're not sure where that leads, because they were told how bad they were and that they were going to hell. There was no forgiveness. There was nothing that was discussed about that stuff. It was, you're going to hell. And majority of everybody at that point went to hell, they thought. So a lot of them will stay. They won't go into that light. They won't finish the transition. The light's there. They'll touch the light. They don't want to go beyond that, though.
Yeah, see, I've had that happen too. When when I've worked with other mediums, they've told me that kind of what you're saying, that people won't cross over because they are afraid of what they think their version of hell is, whether they were taught it, they thought it, or they believed it. That's the reason why they wouldn't transition. Is just because of that. And I've said that to. I've been told that by more than one medium. So I understand. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
But, it's not the only reason, though. It's not the only reason, Pete, because also, too, people leave people behind. I mean, it's like if it was my child and I know my mom and dad was staying behind, because, there are children that happens to on it. I don't want to go into that life because I'm afraid that I'm not going to ever see mom and dad again. They're behind me. But my thought is that we shouldn't have that thought process, because really, though, what we leave behind doesn't really matter that much anymore. Yeah. It's all what's in front of us. And so, and that's where a lot of times people will cross, and they might even have a choice. They don't have to cross, but they see what's in front of them. They see that peace and that serenity and that bright, beautiful light that they have, and they're like going, oh, that's way better than where I was at. So I don't want to go back.
Tuesday, and I guarantee you're going to be familiar with this place, but with the two types of spirits you just said, you and Pete were talking about the ones that refused to move on because of their concept of hell, and they were afraid that that's where they're going to go. And then those who are afraid to leave something behind. The Queen Mary, there are two ghosts that fit that bill perfectly. Mm-hmm. One, I know you know very well, and that's Jackie. Because I believe she's still there because she's afraid she's going to leave her parents behind, at least her mother. Uh-huh. And then the other one, Grumpy, the one spirit that, Bob kind of nicknamed Grumpy, because the theory with him is that he was a murderer and is still on the ship because he's afraid to go on because of where he might go. So, I do understand those two concepts as far as the spirits go. So it does make sense.
And then there's the science-based people on this one, though, Brian, because they're thinking to themselves, okay, so all of that steel that's on that ship and water, and it's like a major big magnet. It's like, is the energy that comes off that ship, because there is, it's, whether it's not man-made energy, it's material energy. Mm-hmm. And so, what draws them? There's a lot of ghosts on that ship. Not all of them died, whether or not we know that they died at sea or they died someplace else. Why are they at that Queen Mary? We can have, there's tons of speculations about it, but is it the material that it's made out of too, and the water that has to do, the salt water?
I have a theory. I have a theory about that myself. If you haven't noticed, it seems like a lot of museum ships, mainly, all seem to have a fair amount of spirit activity on board. And of course, this is my theory, and I know a few other people hold the same theory, that generally speaking, you have a giant hunk of metal sitting in a puddle of water, basically, that is highly conductive, with a current being pumped through the hull to keep barnacles and things like that off. So in effect, what you have is a giant floating battery that just
it's an electromagnetic field that just kind of attracts spirits like flies to flypaper.
Exactly. And that's always kind of been my theory with it. I'm not. How do you feel about that?
No, absolutely. I think that there's going to be more, and there's actually, there's more reasons on the ship than just the one on it. I mean, now the Queen Mary sits in fresh water, even though it's got salt water all around it. But did you know that that's all fresh water that's being pumped in? Salt water that ship sits in. Yes, it's all fresh water. Is that going to make a difference? I don't think it makes a big difference and stuff on it. But the salt, get it to where you have the people who are Wiccan, pagan, whatever. They claim, they have a big thing with salt. And what salt does, salt's purification, salt gets away evil, salt is protection, salt keeps things out of the house. So they're big users of salt. So, with their theories, they're going to say, well, with all that salt and stuff, that there should be no ghosts there, should be no bad ghosts there, because it should be protected, because it's all surrounded by salt water. Right. On it. And the thing of it is that, there's not just human ghosts on that ship. There's a lot of weird things that are on that ship. And it comes and goes. I noticed that when there's a resident psychic that stays on the ship, or they do ghost tours, or we have a lot of investigators that stay on the ship and do investigation, it seems like the ship really stays in better condition. It doesn't get all these really bad negative. You can breathe when you're on the ship, versus when they don't have that, which is because of the Queen Mary's fault of not allowing people to really have more access to it, which is so important. We get that energy on there where you get on that ship and you can't even hardly breathe. And it has to do with the air. It has to do with the energy that's on the ship.
I think that ship actually likes people.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely does.
Keeps it alive. Yeah, it keeps it alive. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing, though.
To have you guys there.
It ought to be pretty active here when it finally opens up, because there have been virtually no people on it since, I believe, like the beginning of April is when it shut down, and it's not scheduled to reopen until the beginning of the year. So it should be rather interesting.
Well, hey, Brian.
Brian. Wait, guys, it is open. I stayed there a couple months ago. You can still stay on the ship. There's nobody. I was the only guest. I was with a friend, but anyways, I was the only guest on the ship. There was nobody else.
Oh wow!
And, mind you, that being only medium, only person, and I happened to be a medium on that ship at that night. And I have to say to you that everything. It was really calm. It was very, very calm. I think that I just a couple of times the knocking, and there was something that came through the wall. But besides that, yeah, you can't stay there, which is weird.
Actually, now you cannot. I was there about a week ago, and they have the parking lot blocked off, and the hotel itself has been closed for about 3 months.
Okay.
So you might have just squeezed in before they completely shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe so on it. That wasn't not that long ago, but yeah, it could have been up to that. That sounds right. It could have been up to 3 months on it. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, considering I was the only person on that ship, well, with a friend, but we could have. We had access to everywhere on the ship. They weren't telling us no. They were letting us do whatever we wanted to do on the ship, as long as we were 6 feet away from anybody else. So I thought, this is great. Nobody's around. But I was alarmingly quiet. I was shocked how quiet it was, and I thought, oh God, I'm going to be bombarded. But
interesting.
It wasn't. So maybe really it is. And I thought to myself, well, maybe they kind of just left. Maybe the majority of them kind of figured that, well, the people aren't going to come, and that's no fun, haunting the ship when there's no people here.
Yeah, I mean, it is
possible. They can run around scaring
anyway,
themselves.
So we have to take a quick break for station identification. When we come back, we will pick up the conversation on the other side. You're listening to the Full Spectrum Project, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
And we are back with the Full Spectrum Project. We have been talking to Tiffany Miles about, well, actually quite a few things. When we left, we were talking about the Queen Mary and a few other things. But Tuesday, we do have a question from somebody in the chat room who wants to know what the difference between a psychic, a medium, and a seer are. And at the beginning of the show, I kind of messed up and just called you a psychic, not a psychic medium. So for me, I'd like to throw that in as well. Is there, what's the difference between a psychic medium, a psychic, a medium, and a seer?
It's a good question, really. It really is. There is a big difference between them. Okay, so all mediums are psychics also, but not all psychics are mediums. And the difference between that is that I am able to communicate with those who have died. I can see into the other side. I can communicate with those on the other side. I can, depending on my level of energy myself, whether I raise my vibration, because we have to meet in a certain vibration in order for us to connect. Theirs, they lower, us, we have to raise. And so, but the psychics, they're more about knowing information that will help you in your life, whether they see predictions, whether they see that the information that's going to be, and it's anything on it that they could really pick up on. They don't really see, or they're not mediums that they communicate with the other side in that aspect of it, But I have some friends that are just the most awesome psychics. I mean, they are really good where they can tell you that the information where a missing trust is or a missing will is, or that go into business and do what you're doing here. They offer information and insight that on it. But now sometimes you have to understand too with psychics that it's subjective, which means that although they're seeing something now or feeling something now about a situation, it's subjected to change. It's not that it's inaccurate, but it's subjected to change at that moment where they're actually getting that information. But they can be very beneficial for your life actually on it. But that's the difference between the psychics and the mediums, is that the psychics don't communicate with the other side. They are strictly for information that will help people's life, warnings, so on and so forth on it. Mediums can do the same thing because we have that psychic ability. But I do have, even though I'm a psychic medium, I actually have a personal psychic that I do talk to because of it. She's awesome. I mean, awesome. Even with doing tarot cards are, you get the right reader. They're magic. I swear to them, they are majorly magic. And I used to have a woman I worked with, Angela Thomas, who to me is the best in the world as far as tarot card readings. Just absolutely. This girl, she is. I don't think I've ever seen her miss a reading where it was not more than 100% accurate. So
wow.
It's just finding those right people. Yeah, that right people that can actually. And a lot of times too, I mean, the police departments will work with the psychics, even though they do work with the psychic mediums, but they work with the psychics too for information that they're looking for on helping to solve a case. They do have a department for that.
So then what exactly is a seer?
A seer. Okay, now the seer. With my sight, what I'm called a seer is that I can see, let's say that I can see where you're sitting at, Brian. I can see where Pete's at. I can see where Spirit's at. They approach or they come to me. I can see them as if they were living today or they were living when they were 30 years old or whatever it is. However else they present themselves to me, my eyes don't need to be shut. They can be, but I see with my eyes wide open. That part of my gift never shuts off. I've never been able to control it.
So like a remote viewer?
I can remote viewing too is part of a seer, right?
Okay.
It's part of a seer's gifts. Now, the thing of it with the seer is that also too, now can I see into heaven? I can, but I'm only limited to a certain area of heaven. Like I'm not like I don't know whether that's a block or there's some reason I can't get my vibration level up higher. Into certain aspects of it. I know that it's a no-no for us to peek into anybody's death, and it should be that way. You don't want anybody to predict a death for you, and no matter how much you think that you do, it's a no-no. It really is not. It's just the wrong thing to do on it. Can I see into hell? I've seen hell. I've seen what my opinion is. My opinion, what hell is, and with anything where we have light and we have dark, it's nothing. It's just silence. There's nothing at all. It's not that you're going to be tortured. It's just silence. You don't get any action. There's no love. There's no, it's just silence. It's like almost like a burnt piece of land that has nothing on it that brings any sort of positive love, anything. It's just silence and just.
So it's kind of like non-contact. It's just
non-contact. Yep.
You're just there.
Now, see, that's a little bit closer to what my concept of hell would be. I often tell people that I do not believe in hell. And the reason for that is, as a father myself, I could never picture myself despising my children to the point where I would want them to suffer forever. Yeah. So to me, that is kind of an insult that we would think that God, who, if you believe in that, is our father, and that we could do something to him to make him want us to suffer. So for me, it was always something that I consider worse, and that is nothingness. So what you're saying is actually closer to what I would picture it as.
It's nothingness. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you want to lose the respect of whatever you did. What put you there? This is the thing about who makes the laws to put you there, on it. What could you possibly do that is that bad that would put you there? Okay. And so I don't believe myself that there's anybody that put you there. I think that it's a place where you just go. Maybe that, I wouldn't say that you want to go, but I just think that that's the best place for you. And it's something that it's almost like, a lot of times, life is so tough these days. And a lot of times people, they make wrong choices, and whether or not they were born to make that wrong choice, but they make a wrong choice, really bad choice that hurts other people. I mean, the thing is, it hurts somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so, people think the concept of a heaven is shopping malls and life goes on like regularly and everything else. All of this is all, but we forget that it's supposed to be a place of peace and quiet. And there's your serenity there. That's the place where you want to go, where you don't have to deal with anything. There's no arguments. There really isn't. It's whatever that beauty is within you, that love, and that's what you're going to get out of that. But when you don't feel that about yourself, maybe that peace, that quiet, that whatever you want to say, it's hell, but we would think it'd be hell because I couldn't stand it if there was all, that was all. If there was nobody, if there was nothing there, oh my God, that would be my hell, because I can't feel that love anymore.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Tuesday, you were talking about, heaven not being a shopping mall and all of that, but I'll tell you, any 80s Valley girl, that would be their heaven. So, there very well could be a heaven with shopping malls. So, never say never.
You know what though? I hope so for, and the thing of it is that I'm not here to ruin anybody's parade about what they think heaven is, or the fact that if somebody's lost a child and where they think that child is, on it. Is that child taken care of? You bet that child's taken care of. And, the thing of it is we're connected we are all connected together, but there's a special connection with those who have our blood. Our blue blood that's come together. We're always going to connect that way on it. There's going to be that grandmother and that great grandmother and that aunt and that husband and that child and stuff on it. And we're always going to be connected that way. And it's in more of a special way than it is just because we're God's children. But let me ask you one question. I'm going to ask you guys a question on this. And this is something I found very curious.
Okay.
And maybe you can tell me if you've heard. But I'm telling you, whenever I've asked Spirit, and I have asked this question, I can't tell you, Brian and Pete, I don't know how many times. Why don't you talk about God? Spirit, why are you not talking about God? Because I've asked you, have you seen God? Have you seen Jesus? Have you seen angels? Have you seen Joseph? Have you seen this? Have you seen that? Everything that's talked about the Bible. Have you talked about it? Why aren't you talking about it? Why aren't you saying you have seen God? I want to know. None of you are. None of you are talking about it. Why?
I don't think that we've ever really been shown who God is as far as a visual. I mean, of course you see the large man with the flowing beard and stuff, but that's just ideology.
Yeah.
So I mean, how can you see if you don't know what you're looking for? I mean, you could feel it.
Yeah, right. But still, why are you not talking about it?
I talk about him a lot.
God, whether it was God or whether it was, through the Quran, whether it was whatever it was, the name they want to call. It doesn't matter. I mean, the fact of it is they're all going to have, all of them are going to have all different names for it.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't talk about any of those names. None of it. Brian, what do you think?
I talk about it all the time.
You do, but you're alive.
I'm what?
You're alive, but the spirits don't talk about that.
Oh, well, I can't say why the spirits wouldn't talk about God. That's now during investigations. You're right. I don't think I have ever asked a question of any of the spirits I was trying to get in contact with about God. But I've never really thought about it, to be perfectly honest with you. So who knows? Maybe I will next time I'm out on one of my investigations. It'd actually be
an
interesting conversation to bring up.
Yeah, it really is on it, because if somebody's out there and they're listening that they have an EVP that spirit mentions God in any form or anything that has to do with that religious sense of it, I would love to hear it. But my thought is this on it, and maybe this is just a logical thought. I don't want to say that it's a proven thought, but I'm going to say my thought is on this, because there's so many different opinions on God. Like God's creator, God's this, God's love, Father this, there's tons. I mean, your God's right, my God's wrong. I mean, there's just so much. And we're all going to the same place. We all die. We're all going to the same place. Besides those who have to go some.
Well, it's all energy. It's all energy.
It's all energy, right? It's all energy. You're right. Okay. So would I be there? Would I actually find that peace if I'm thinking to myself, why is that Jew in the same room as I am? I mean no disrespect when I say that. Why is that Muslim over here? Because this is that God, that energy over there, that's the truth. That's the truth. But this energy over here says, no, it's not. So if we don't know anything about that, there's no room to debate, no argument, no nothing else like this. It just is. We're just all energy again.
Now,
well,
Tuesday,
that's what faith is.
Well, now see, right? we have brought this up on the show once or twice. I don't remember how many times. And I'm of the mind that when say we go into an investigation, that you have to take into account the religious beliefs of the person who is, say, your client, not necessarily my religious beliefs, but theirs. Because you are actually working for them. And to me, especially if and I haven't run into too many of these, maybe one who was, I would classify as a non-human, but then you have to figure out, well, okay, what is this non-human? And is it reacting to the client's religion? So, for me, Bob, and a few other investigators we work with, we always do go in with sort of a religious, I wouldn't want to say belief, but an idea of what we might have to deal with due to the different religions of the people we work with, if that makes any sense.
Oh,
If you're also dealing with the client and their belief system, what makes you think that if you're dealing with spirit, and if you're questioning if they're working off of their religion, what makes you think that they're not working off of yours?
Well, for me, it's because I haven't been there. If a client but
they can still pick up your energy. Why wouldn't you think that it might be reacting off of you?
It's possible, but if they wanted to react off of me, they'd be over there with me, not with the client. And that's my belief, is that they have picked up on the client. I mean, look at it this way. If I believe that every single spirit I run into is all of a sudden going to attack me, guess what? I'm not going to do this anymore. But I don't believe that. I believe that when a client is contacting me or Planet Paranormal, that the client is the one being attacked, not the investigator. Now, granted, the investigator can end up.
I'm not talking about the investigator being. I'm not talking about you bringing it to the investigation. I'm talking about whatever's there bothering the client. It's starting to bother you since you've gotten there. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about following you.
Right.
Okay, and that's fine. I'll deal with that later. My thing is I'm there to deal with the client. If something is bothering me, I'll deal with that later after the client's dealt with.
Okay.
But I still believe that the client is the one who is going to be attacked, and possibly, I'm not saying every time, but possibly being attacked because of their religious beliefs. Maybe they have strong religious beliefs, and that's the reason that the entity is picking on them. It's one of those things where every case is different, but
Yeah, no, I've seen that too. I've absolutely seen that too, and seen we had a case with a Muslim woman who actually converted herself from being Muslim to Christianity because of it. She, with their prayer mats, they have a very strong belief. But the fact of it is that in the Quran, in their oh my gosh, now I'm lost for words of what their temples are called. But they wouldn't help them. They would, the mosque. They would not help her at all. Shunned her like you wouldn't believe, and trying to get some help with this. But she was being attacked by being pinpricked with and you could see these red marks all over her body from being pinpricked from this thing. I mean, it was a setup. It was a really weird case. And it was the last case I actually worked on, to where everything was a setup on it, from this woman accidentally going into this home that was by her daughter's, because she wanted to move closer to her daughter. The house never made it on the market. It was weird how this real estate agent didn't really have, after checking them out, was nowhere to be found, but was stayed in it long enough to be able to do the paperwork with this. I mean, on it, where I got involved with this, and it wasn't even me to work on the case. I was helping her daughter with the website. And then lo and behold, she starts talking about how her mother was being attacked after visiting this house that she wanted to buy. And then when she went home, she got terribly sick. I'm like, when she said that, I went like, really? Now tell me more about that, until where it came in to be, they bought the house, and then the attacks really started happening, to where I walked into the house and could not believe that house was so infested with the most horriblest energy I've seen in my life that was in there on it. And that, finding out so many clues about even the next door neighbor that was next to this house died of the same exact thing as the man did that lived in that house within hours of each other. And nobody put it together. Nobody even made any kind of reference to why both of them died hours apart from each other from the same exact thing. So, I mean, it was just, and I finally, I think it took us about almost over a year and a half. And that we weren't getting very far with this. I mean, we had gotten a little bit, but it was the most horriblest case ever that I think that I worked on. I finally said, you know what, this is only the suggestion I can make to you. We've had so many people in here helping you. We had gone through the Vatican to get exorcists out there because of it. And that seemed to help for a very short time. And so when it didn't help, then that told us that the fact of it is, it's the client that we have to really work on, that we cannot have any outside sources come in, that we really have to work with this client, because this client needs to step up no matter what. She's got to fight, because she's going to lose her battle with this if she doesn't. So she did. She converted into Christianity, brought more faith into what she felt that her God could protect her with. And it didn't completely eliminate it all the way. She still has residue from it. But it did stop the attacks, and she still is able to attend church and still go through her prayer process on it. They finally abandoned the house, flat out abandoned it. Didn't take nothing with them, left everything behind, and left. Wow. So, that's big.
Yeah,
that's big.
That's
the house,
big.
yeah, the house stays empty to this day.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we have to take a quick break. Another station identification, but when we come back, we'll continue talking to Tuesday Miles, and you're listening to the Full Spectrum Project. We'll be back in just a minute.
Yeah.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And we are back on the Full Spectrum Project. We have been talking to Tuesday Miles. And, I was curious. Pete, do you have a Costco membership? How about you, Tuesday? Do either one of you have a Costco membership? You have Sam's Club? Costco. Or do you guys even have Costco out there?
Yeah, we have Costco down here. We have Sam's as well, but haven't had a card for a long time.
Well, because I actually ended up, I have a Sam's Club membership, but Terry and I actually just got a Costco membership, and that's because they have a lot of keto stuff there, and I'm on a really strict keto diet, basically. But I thought it was really funny. I don't know whether you guys heard, but Costco, it sells caskets. You guys have heard of that, right?
I heard about it, never seen them.
Okay, well, I wasn't believing that they were selling caskets until I got the membership. And, we saw that they actually had coffins at this place. And it was weird because we noticed that they actually have glass coffins. All right.
Glass ones, huh?
Glass coffins, yeah. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not really sure that this is a good idea. I mean, it remains to be seen.
Oh, Angie, where's the stick?
See, now, Pete, I managed to get through that whole thing before you even realized what was going on.
Get the stick, Angie. He got us.
Cemeteries are something else. They're special as they are anyways, on it. And there's quite a few that's actually can, they give a good show when you go out there and stuff on it, I myself, that when I go out there, it's just like, it's like it's like hidden inside of a Disneyland. You hear all this chatter. I mean, just chatter, on it. And I find myself, it used to be when I was having in my house had there must have been, I always say there was over 1,000 ghosts that were in my house at one time when my gifts really just opened up and I had no control over them. And they would just line up down the street. And I thought, get in my car. All you guys get in my car. I'll take you to the cemetery. You guys go hang out there for a while and leave me alone, on it. And I go up there and I thought to myself, how is this peace? There's so much noise in the cemetery because that's all they're doing is hanging out and chattering. It's almost like drama, on it. But I don't know. Do people still investigate cemeteries?
Yeah, they do. If they usually break into them. Nobody asks for permission anymore. But yeah, I know down here they do. We call them cemetery stompers or grave stompers. Yeah, they still do it. I mean, but the biggest thing is that you always see them posting orbs, which are usually, usually nothing. But that's what they do out here. I've heard a couple of EVPs from one graveyard. One of them was actually pretty funny. It was a friend of mine that they were in a graveyard and they heard a siren, and they got somebody on there went busted. So I thought that was funny. But
that's cute on that. That's very cute. Yeah. There's that one cemetery in Hollywood that is the most strangest cemetery as it is anyways. It's where all the stars are buried. I mean, this place it's
Hollywood
like
Forever.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, it is the most stupidest cemetery I've ever seen in my life. Why someone would put a cemetery in the middle of all these tall, humongous buildings? You would never know it was there because it's surrounded by all buildings, but all the stars are in that one. Marilyn Monroe's in there. Sylvester Stallone's son's in there. I mean, there's Farrah Fawcett's in there. I mean, that's just small few of them. I mean, pretty much there's every star that you can think of that could get a plot there is buried there. I mean, just huge.
Brian, Ask Tuesday's opinion on what you saw on those two graves of Hughes and Monroe.
Okay, so Marilyn Monroe, she's actually not buried at Hollywood Forever. She's at the Westwood Memorial, which is this little tiny.
That's what I'm talking about.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, this one's a little tiny cemetery, but
yes.
So Marilyn Monroe is buried there, and you would a few years ago, you would go, and her headstone. It's not a headstone. It was like one of the
plaque.
Small. It's like a plaque mausoleum, and it was completely pink from people going and kissing her plaque with lipstick on.
I kissed it.
So, did you?
I did. Yep.
All right. Well, then you might find this interesting. Right now, Hugh Hefner is buried literally right next to her. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Her headstone or plaque is starting to fade from pink. However, Hugh Hefner's has lipstick marks all over it, and it's starting to turn pink. So I was wondering, since Marilyn Monroe was one of the first centerfolds in Playboy, and she is now literally right next to, I mean, their headstone plaques butt up to each other. I'm wondering if Marilyn Monroe is popping out and kissing all over Hugh Hefner's plaque.
You know what, though? He was such an odd man, Hugh Hefner was, you know. But again, you know, and which is odd for him to be next to her, you know, Mr. Playboy himself. But that's very interesting. And I'm just wondering if people are thinking that I'm kissing, you know, his plaque also, too. But his plaque, when I was there, wasn't pink. But Marilyn's sure was on it. And, you know, and the thing of it is, right where they both are is a very plain area. There's nothing really fancy about this cemetery at all.
It really is.
Even where she's at, there's nothing fancy except for that it's pink, you know, from everybody kissing it. But, you know, I could see women. I mean, Hugh Hefner was a playboy. I could see women
that
kissing
he was.
his plaque. So, you know, so I don't know if I would say that that's paranormal or if that's just women really are just kissing it.
Yeah, well, I couldn't help myself when I saw that. I just kept thinking, all right, Marilyn's kissing on Hugh here.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it was just one of those things.
You know, I mean, I would be kissing on Elvis Presley if I was going to kiss on some guy.
There you go. You know, Dean Martin's at that same cemetery with Marilyn Monroe. So.
Oh, where is he? Okay, yeah. I mean, there's, you know, I can't even remember how many. What stuck in my mind is because of Farrah Fawcett, and then, of course, Ryan O'Neal was just having a huge fit about her being put there, and then she's, you know, because that's where he wanted her to be, and the next thing you know is that. Terry sent me a message. Okay, there we go. I didn't know. I'm hearing somebody buzz. Do you hear that ringing? Is that me just ringing, or somebody's binging me? I'm not sure what that was. But anyways, but the thing of it is that, you know, he made such a big fuss about her being there, and then her grave was not taken care of. I mean, there was no flowers on it. It was weeds all over it. I'm going like, you know what, dude, that's so unfair. She deserved a lot more than that. She was a major icon. She just died the same time as Michael Jackson did, and then didn't get paid attention to when she died. Michael Jackson got all the attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the celebrities, so I have a couple celebrities that I've actually have had contact with. Ooh. But, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I mean,
I have to ask, did you go through Steve Huff to do it? Sorry.
No, I didn't.
Oh, no.
But I tell you one thing, they're a pain in the butt. They really are. The first one I had in contact was with John Denver. Now, you know, it wasn't until really actually later on.
I loved his music. I learned how to play Country Roads, my first song I ever played. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, West Virginia, you know, Mountain Mama, whatever was on it. For a week, this guy sang to me, and I kept thinking, who is this? Why do I keep hearing your music? Shut up. Stop singing to me. And then I could hear him talking. And I'm like going, okay, so if you're John Denver, how did you die? He goes, because I was drunk. I'm going, okay, well, that's not really that. You might have been drunk, but how did you die? Well, I ran out of gas in one fuel tank, and I couldn't figure out how to flip it over. You didn't know how to fly a plane, and that's the reason why you died? He goes, yep. I got too low, and I couldn't get that stupid thing to flip over. And next thing I know, engine stopped and down I went. I went like, oh,
wow.
that's gotta hurt. I go, you know what? That has really gotta hurt. I go, and so how'd that drinking work for you? Because is there any regrets that you have that you were kind of a drunk for a long time that people didn't really know that? And he's like, I guess it got me where I'm at now today, didn't it? I was like, oh yeah, it did. Now, here's the thing about this. The stuff that he was telling me, it's like later on, a couple of days later after John's been there, my next door neighbor says to me, I've got these 3 women that came in from out of town that wanted to connect with their mom through John Edwards, who's another famous psychic medium. But he wasn't reading for them, didn't connect. He goes, is there any possible way that you can give them a reading? Okay, so I agreed to it and stuff on it. Waited the next day, went over there, and I get to their front porch and I hear John just singing, take me home, country roads, West Virginia. So I'm like, what? I go, so they open the door and I go, what does West Virginia have to do with your mom? And there's 3 girls all screaming at me, that's where she was from. I went, okay, what does John Denver have to do with her? She used to date John Denver. She loved him.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes when things like that happen, you think to yourself, how am I able to validate this stuff? Who's going to believe me? Who's going to ever believe me? So it wasn't until that moment that I said, hey, what does he have to do with your mom? And lo and behold, it comes up. So it was like, okay, I can say 100% that, yeah, that was John Denver. On it. But, and then the thing of it is, I'm like going, can you go home now? So if I ever hear you sing that song to me one more time, I will hate you forever because you sang it 24/7 to me.
Well, what was the significance of him singing that all the time? Was that like his favorite song or something?
No, it was because her mom was from West Virginia. Their mom was from West Virginia. And so it was validating her that the fact of it is, yes. And they'll do this, just because he's famous, I use it. But I'll get that all the time. Well, I get them to play music for me for however long a time that they need to get that message to me. They'll play music that has something to do with me connecting with somebody else wherever, on it. We get set up all the time, but with John, because their mom dated John, she had a relationship with him. So there was that both West Virginia and the fact that, and here's the thing, the 3 daughters knew without a doubt that was mom coming through. That was their mom. Everything I said wasn't from my voice. It was mom's voice that was there. And that's a big thing when you're a medium, is to be able to bring that validation that I'm not going to understand it. Nobody else is going to understand it. But the person that you're bringing this information to understands it without any doubt that what I'm saying to them is that person that they're connected to on the other side.
It's their message, not yours.
Absolutely. Sometimes makes no sense to me. I'm just the messenger for that. But you want to make sure too is that you're asking spirit, look, you got to give me something that these people can say, hey, I can relate to. Not just here's your grandmother and she's dead. What's that going to do? Every grandmother's dead. That's not enough. I don't want to come up to somebody to say, hey, your grandmother's with me. What is that? That's not fair. Because how do you validate that in being an authentic person that is really bringing through that information and not just faking it like that? I don't want to have it. I don't want them to speculate. I don't want them to say, well, my grandmother, all she said was my grandmother's name starts with an M. Well, a lot of them started with an M back in 100 years ago because that was a common name.
Right.
So you got to, I asked for more. I asked for way more than that. No, you got to come up with something better than that.
So what's your thoughts on cold reading?
It just depends. If you're a celebrity reader, you want to, it's that hoopla that you get out of it, but again, they're not really bringing through that information that is going to be so validating without a doubt that I can recognize that, this person had a miscarriage. I'm sorry, but you know what? That if it's a miscarriage, why is that miscarriage coming through?
Hey, Tuesday, we're going to have to take a break here to get ready for the news. Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off. Can we continue? No, we continue this afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, Brian. Brian? All right. So, without ado, ladies and gentlemen, here comes Angie Mohle and the Weird World News.
Good evening,
Snooze?
y'all. How are y'all?
We're
doing
good.
great, Angie. How about yourself?
I'm all right. This is a lively discussion. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it too.
And I like the fact that you are actually, well, not necessarily debating, I guess, but you're exploring a lot of answers to questions. And I think that's kind of cool.
I'm actually just trying to make sure that Tuesday is happy, so she doesn't come looking for me for my gaffe at the beginning of this show. So.
Oh, well. We're all very worried that that's going to happen.
Oh, you're probably trying to find a photographer.
Maybe. All right.
So,
okay. So I have good weird California content this time.
All right.
oh, thank God.
Well, I mean, it's so abundant, you know, weirdos.
See, Tuesday, now you can go and track her down.
So, you know, I worry a little bit about joking too hard because, you know, we may have new listeners who have no idea that this is like one big Texas versus California joke between us. And that, like, we really have no hard feelings, even though I really do think y'all are weirdos. And and I would never live there.
Brian's just happy that it's two versus two tonight.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and, you know, us Californians, we don't just sit there and gnaw on rawhide. So, you know, that's...
Well, we don't either.
No, you sit there and gnaw on kale.
Oh, God.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with kale.
Oh, yes, it is. It's gross.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
It's horrible.
So I'll get the two California stories out of the way so we can, I don't know, laugh and move on.
So the beating will commence afterwards?
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Okay.
Fishermen on the Sacramento River in California caught 2 pipe bombs.
Excuse me?
Shasta County Sheriff's Department's bomb squad successfully detonated them on site, and they suspect that these pipe bombs were thrown into the river by people who were attempting to harvest salmon by bombing them and then collecting the fish when they float up.
Oh, my God. So now the fish have to wear Kevlar now?
Basically. Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
I mean, it's not, and I mean, people have been doing that sort of thing all over the world forever. So it's not
but it was
surprising.
dynamite sticks.
Right.
What?
Or they used to use the old crank telephones to shock them.
Well, now look at here's the bright spot. You can basically catch them and have a fish fry at the same time. So, plus.
There you go. Well, I mean,
You're 0 for 2 there, Clune.
What bothers me, obviously, is that they did not detonate and that just people who were fishing found them. I mean, you know, obviously I don't have to sit here and explain the danger of that, but, you know, I mean, if you're going to do something illegal, I guess do it well enough so that you don't endanger other people later. Maybe that's not good advice.
No.
How do you know that it wasn't the fish that put them on the poles? Maybe they got tired of getting bombed.
Oh gosh, that's funny. That is, you know, yeah. I mean, depending on what they're dumping in the water in the Sacramento River, they may have developed thumbs. Who knows?
Yeah.
So the second California story is one that I've talked to like 3 people about this, and none of them had heard it. And I thought that was so weird because I've seen it other places besides just the 3 of us are on chat. But 2 different pilots flying into LAX reported seeing a man in a jetpack at 3,000 feet.
I did hear about this.
Yes, I did too.
Yeah.
Did they ever get a picture of what he looked like, or was it just a report?
No. And, well, there's a lot I could say about that. But then again, I'm pretty sure that it's one of those things where it's like, you would never just be sitting there with your phone or a camera ready, because what are the odds that you're just going to happen upon a gentleman on a jetpack?
Oh, yeah.
So, but I mean, we all know the various stereotypes about pilots, but I don't think these guys were lying about seeing something.
Okay.
The experts are saying that there's little chance it could have been a human in a jetpack, and they gave several very valid reasons for it.
Okay.
For flight at 3,000 feet, they'd need more fuel than they could carry, or they'd need a parachute.
Okay.
And
how do they know they didn't have parachutes?
Because after the reports to the controller, people started looking and no parachute was ever seen. So they had people
suicide.
Well, that's
I'll just
an
be quiet.
Expensive way to do it. And I'm assuming that somebody might have seen some. Well, I don't know. They didn't talk about what kind of fuel goes in it, and I didn't even think to look. Anyway, whatever. Under regular situations, because there's always a regular situation with a jetpack. The flights are typically 10 minutes long because of the fuel capacity restrictions.
Okay.
So much like they were saying, you can't carry that much. They're so incredibly loud. So they're saying that somebody would have heard it taking off or landing, with it being in that area. Okay. And the tech to build the jetpacks is not commonly available, nor are all of the components. And so they're saying it would have had to have been a garage project from someone who was either wealthy or had the means to steal the stuff. And there are a couple of places that are working on jetpack tech right now. One of them is contracted by the military. They're saying it wasn't one of theirs.
You sure it wasn't a coyote?
Here's
it sounds like something Wile E would have bought from Ace.
Yeah, sorry.
Possibly.
So here's my thought. After our show last week with Butch Witkowski, it amazes me that nobody is putting forth the theory that it might have been one of these aliens that they keep seeing, because who knows what kind of technology they have.
Or black ops,
black ops. But here's the thing about that. Okay, so most of the experts are agreeing that they think it's likely a large drone.
Okay.
And I mean, that all makes sense. And I realize that Californians are a little off and the government does some weird stuff. And aliens are, who knows what they think. But why would you fly a jetpack if you are from this planet? Why would you fly a jetpack at airplane altitudes anywhere near an airport? One of the country's busiest airports.
Somebody ordered a pizza?
I don't know. Don't you need both hands to hold on to a jetpack?
I got it. I got it.
What?
It is the new Amazon delivery system.
That's a good point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
actually,
I was fully expecting a terrible joke, and I was just gonna fake illness and leave. But
from me, what? Why would you expect a bad joke from me?
Well, sweetheart, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you.
I mean, really? Jeez.
Angie, don't tell them. Let them figure it out.
I mean, eventually someone will.
Yeah.
California's having a lot of alien kind of encounters lately. There's been a lot of UFO sightings here lately. California
they really have.
Yeah.
Well, haven't people reported things that look like humans in buckets that are flying around? I mean, there's been pictures of those.
Yeah, maybe so. I had a lady that swore she saw little mermaids in her milk.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
You see, so like I said, sometimes you just really don't know. I mean, it's like I just like the type of person. If I hadn't seen it, I don't know. I can't tell you whether I know it's true or not.
People have been quarantined in their homes for so long, they've forgotten what outside things look like.
That could be a possibility.
You just don't know anymore. It's like, oh gosh. I mean, I think that I haven't seen anything that's outrageous, and myself. But then again, I'm not always around everywhere. But it's things could definitely be. I guess there might be some. Maybe there is. Maybe there you call a UFO expert and see what they have to say.
Yeah.
That's
All
all I
right.
can say about that.
So Angie, what else you got?
Oh, okay. So 2 A1 sanitation employees were cleaning out the vault toilets in Montana's Flathead National Forest, and
Thank God.
they came across a poop-enshrouded iPhone 11 at the bottom of one of them.
Wow, this is a crappy story.
Yeah, I know.
That's open street, Clune.
And it's still better
Do
than
better.
yours. I love you. They said they were extra careful not to vacuum it up, but removed it with grabbers instead.
I hope so.
After sanitizing it, which, I mean, I don't even want to hear that part of the story. I didn't read into that. But after sanitizing it, they realized they couldn't unlock the phone without the code. So they took it to a Verizon store, and then they had to take it to the Apple store to see if they could get the owner's info. And when the stores refused to do so, they just took the SIM out. I honestly think they probably did find a way to clean it like well enough to where it wasn't visibly poopy. But they put the SIM in another phone. They got the owner's info, and they were able to leave a message on the owner's voicemail, and she did return it. And they had a pretty interesting little conversation, and she did verify the last place she had seen it was in the vault toilet. So the general consensus is one of disbelief that anybody cares that much to go through the trouble of returning a phone.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But Cody and Tanner, the employees at A1 Sanitation, have garnered some pretty well-earned respect for this one. I'm part of the Android crowd, and I will never switch, but I guess that just goes to show you that you can put an iPhone through a bunch of crap and it'll still work.
Not you too, Angie.
Yeah,
Not
see
you
how
too.
it feels. See how it feels.
Angie,
Angie.
there is hope for you yet. I am so proud.
Oh, this is good fun.
Oh no.
That was really good. That was funny.
Workers renovating a city's fountain in eastern Belgium found a box containing the heart of the city's first mayor, proving that an old urban legend was indeed true. When Mayor Pierre David died in 1839, his heart was removed so it could be placed in a monument paying tribute to him. It wasn't until 1883, however, that sufficient funds were raised to create a fountain elaborate enough to be worthy of the beloved mayor. It was inaugurated in 1885, and that's when the heart was hidden inside. Now, you do the math from 1839 to 1885.
Yeah.
But that's okay. The tiny zinc casket containing a jar filled with alcohol and the heart was placed inside a hollowed-out chunk of stone, which was then hidden behind the bust of Pierre David halfway up the structure. And they found it when they were beginning restoration of the fountain. It's now on display in the city's Museum of Fine Art until September 20th.
Now, what city was this?
I could not pronounce it. It starts with a V, and it's in Belgium.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it mystifies me as to how that went from being an anticipated event in the town to becoming an urban legend, especially in a town with a population of only 55,000, and those are today's numbers. I mean, I know that time passes, and it seems like something that was kind of bizarre enough that it would be passed down or documented better.
Yeah, you would think.
I'm wondering I'm wondering around if he was walking around out there. It's what caused the urban legend.
I have no idea. Well, y'all, that is all I got for y'all today. Thank you for listening to WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama. And with that, let's get back to Brian and Pete.
Thank you, Angie. And
Thank you, Angie.
as I said, there is hope for you. I have hope for the future.
You
Thank
are the
you.
only person who has ever said that to me.
Hey.
Just keep it up. All right.
You actually brought a tear to Brian's eye.
You did. You really did. I'm surprised you didn't hear me weeping in joy. Okay. Well, we are back with the Full Spectrum Project, and we have been talking with Tuesday Miles. And Tuesday, I wanted, you had mentioned something earlier about psychics who were not necessarily on the up and up, shall we say. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted to ask your opinion about one specific psychic who is still in the news, even though for me, I believe that she was one of the biggest frauds out there. So I'm talking about Sylvia Brown. And that most of her predictions never came to pass. Some of the ghosts that she supposedly found never actually even existed. And then in her most dramatic failure, when Amanda Berry was finally found when she escaped from the Cleveland basement that her and a few other girls had been locked in, Brown, a couple years before that, had told her mother on national TV that she talked to her daughter and that her daughter was dead.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? And, how does one tell, if you're looking for somebody who is a psychic or a psychic medium, how do you tell if they're a fraud or not?
Okay. So I know of the case, and I know that, Sylvia Brown did Maury Povich. I think it was Maury Povich or no, it wasn't Maury. It was Montel Williams' show.
Montel Williams, yes. Yes.
Montel Williams' show.
Yeah, she was a mainstay there.
And so, I mean, and then went on to write just eons and eons and eons of books before she died. I mean, that's what really got her big bucks, was those books that she wrote. Or whether she wrote them or she had a ghostwriter, whichever it was on it, but it was done with her.
I think she was also charging like $1,500 a reading.
She does. It was that, I'm not sure the total cost. I know her son Christopher charges him for $700-900 for his readings and stuff. And so, she had a very, very strong relationship with her guide, but she was very open about her guide. Francine, I believe it was, is what she called her. And, the thing with that case is that when she said that her, the person was dead, and here's the thing about this though. First of all, she should have never said that. Whether or not she saw that this person was dead, unless she has proof of a body, unless somebody else has proof that that body's dead, never, ever do you want to tell a parent that their child's dead unless you've got absolute hope, because you're going to take that hope and just rip it out of their arms. And you know what? I'm sorry, but you know what? That a parent lives for hope to have their child found or their child be alive. And I'm not going to be that person. Whether I think I see someone dead or not, I'm not going to be that person that's going to rip that hope out of their hands. Absolutely, unless I've got a body that I could say, here it is.
Right.
So first and foremost, no matter what it was, that she broke a major code of honor for any psychic medium to tell that to a parent. I would have kicked her ass if I would have been in the audience for her to do that. That was
that wasn't the only time she had done that. I can't remember the other cases, but I
there
believe
was another boy. There was a boy. There was another guy that. There was a
if
young
I
boy
remember
that
right,
she
there were
did.
3 different ones that she had told the parents that their children were dead, and she was wrong on all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Well, there was a gentleman that passed in on 9/11, and she said that he was alive.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one, but I'm not
Yeah.
not going to deny it. You know.
No, I mean, I can say that, you know, for her, I mean, I know that she was gifted in a way. So it's not to say that she was gifted in a good way, but that she was a psychic medium. That is true. She was a psychic medium. On it, I think that as she aged, I think that you know, she should have retired and she should have just let things go and be. And that aspect of it about being retired, when you have so much going on around you, whether it's somebody and whatever it has to do with her life, and she did have a full plate in her life, that you lose that ability to see things clearly. There's no longer that clear sentence, that part of your gift where you're absolutely, no matter what, without a doubt, have that clear information. And I think that with her, that was something that went wrong on it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, even earlier in her career, she named, which is now one of the most famous ghosts on Alcatraz. The only problem is she named somebody that was never on Alcatraz. Yeah. So, you know,
mind you, yes, I mean, there's a whole lot of wrongs that she did, and there's a whole lot of wrongs, you know, and the medium's not going to actually say the whole lot of rights that she had either on it, you know, but she had a humongous following. I mean, this is not just a
I do know
she
that.
had a huge following, and these people,
and actually still does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yes. You know, on it. So we don't see that part of her where the reason these people are following her and the information that she was able to bring forward for these other people that she's read for. They came back to her because they got something out of her that they, without a doubt, was what they needed. And so, you know, the amount of money that she charged for this kind of stuff, you know, I don't agree with that. I don't do that. That's not my gig on it. And I can say that there's many out there that does overcharge for this kind of stuff on it. And, you know, I mean, here's that point where you do all this training. My thought is I've gone through a lot of training. I went to all these testing that I had done for myself, you know, and it cost me a lot of money to do that. Am I going to recoup that money? No, that's not what I'm in this for. I'm in this for to see where I can make a bigger difference on it. But there are other people that do this. This is their job. They take this extremely serious with it, you know, on their work that they do. And they are very accurate with it. Do they deserve to get paid? This is the only part of income that they're going to have. It's a service. It is a service. And so, you know, there's going to be always that debate about whether or not it's the right thing to do. If somebody is suffering and all they need to do is hear a message from their child, and I'm the person that can bring that through, I'm not going to charge them to do that with. It's just not right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right for me to do that. But it also feels right that I have a family to take care of. And I'm spending all my time working and helping people, and I have to go to work somehow or another on it. So you know what?
I understand that it's a service, but anyway, unfortunately, we do have to take another quick break, but we'll continue along this track when we get back. You're listening to the Full Spectrum Project, and we will be back in just a minute.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
And we are back with the Full Spectrum Project. We have been talking to Tuesday Miles. Now, Tuesday, when we left for the break, we were talking about psychic Sylvia Brown. And regardless of what people may think of Ms. Brown, I do know a lot of people seek out psychics and psychic mediums, and you can drive down a lot of roadways and see, signs for palmistry, tarot reading, read your future, things like that. Now, how can a person looking for somebody be able to figure out whether the person that they are seeking help from or enlightenment from is not a charlatan and actually does have ability?
Well, the internet's going to help you there also, too. People like to put reviews online. They do, and they will do that on it, whether or not that they were able to validate any information that you're getting to. Look online, do a research of the person's name. You should do that anyways. You do that for a doctor. And if you're going to trust somebody with some heavy-duty information that you might get from this, on it, then you research it. Absolutely. Don't be a fool and not do that. Don't pay somebody money first and then come back later and saying, well, you didn't give me the right information. Well, you should have done your research first about doing that kind of stuff. Don't go to anybody. It's word of mouth. A lot of this stuff is too, that, people put on there that said that I had a really good positive experience with this. Now, mind you, the more famous they are, the more money that they're going to charge you. So that's just how it works. The credibility for that is on it. You get, certain celebrity psychic mediums who will charge that big bucks for whatever it is because you're taking their valuable time with that. So, it has, you got to really, really look into this kind of stuff and see the credibility. Are they consistent with their stuff? Are they overly charging them what you really think it's worth? How much money are you willing to spend? Because, people lose their money. They lose everything they own to psychics sometimes because they can't stop seeking the advice from a psychic. They can't stop looking for that one message from their husband or for their loved ones or for their child that is missing. That's all they live for. And it is, I'll tell you one thing right now, if you know somebody that's doing that, get them in contact with me on it. I'll talk to them about this and get them to stop spending their entire life's money on this, that it's just not worth it. And to be honest with you, any person that does that, any psychic medium that does that should go to jail.
Well, there's been a lot of there's a lot of folks that have been in the news that they'll take exorbitant amount of money for removing curses and things like that. Thousands of dollars. It just blows my mind.
It's all fake. Curses are real. You want to give the curse some belief system is because you're giving it to belief to it. Mm-hmm. That's how it works. That is the only way it works. Is that you are believing and in yourself. You're the one that's believing it, that you have it there. Mm-hmm. But as far as having somebody remove that from you, whatever it is on that stuff, they put this EBGB stuff in, centurions. There's, even Wiccan pagans. I'm not just saying just for them because they're good people too, but I'm just saying to you, don't waste your money on it. How you get rid of it, if you believe in it, change your energy. Stop doing that behavior that you're doing before. Try something new. Bring more positive love into your life on it. And it helps. You have to believe in that also. Intent, faith, and belief really does hold a lot of energy. So if you're putting all that in one bag and you think that something's cursed you and your intention, your faith and belief is going to be with that, it's going to show its face to be something like that. But if you're not going to believe in that kind of crap, it is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I know you had said to look, online because there's a lot of things online now. But one of the problems with that, and we'll use Yelp as an example, you have people that will go on there and give 5-star reviews to a company or a restaurant or possibly even a psychic, even though they may go in so wanting to believe what the person said that, they may be giving a review of something that from somebody who was just a good actor. And then on the opposite end of that, you could have a legitimate psychic who, is fantastic, doesn't charge a whole lot, and somebody had one experience, or the psychic told them something they didn't like, and go in and start giving them bad reviews. So, the whole review thing, you really kind of have to take with a grain of salt. And
you do. And you know what you can also do is ask them to do, because usually the readings are from like 15 minutes to 30 minutes, which you're paying for. Ask them to do a 5-minute reading for you. Say, you know what, I really want to just try to see, how we work. But again, I don't want to pay for a 30-minute reading because I don't want that in case that we cannot connect right. So ask them, can we do a 5-minute or a couple-minute reading to see maybe if the fact is you can bring up some information that I can validate?
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to do that with you, don't go to them. They should be able to willing to work with you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And one thing, like for Pete and I don't have any sort of psychic ability, or if I do, I don't know how to use it. I don't believe Pete has much either. Is that correct, Pete?
That's not true.
No, that's not true.
You have great intuition. He has great intuition.
Well, then, for somebody like me,
every single time with me.
But what I do is, if I feel something, I'll put a camera on it, or I want the documentation of at an investigation. So it's like validation for me as well. But I don't talk about it. No, I mean, if anybody I've talked to about it, it's been Tuesday.
Okay.
Oh, he picks up on me all the time on it. So yeah, he does really well. Go ahead, Brian.
All right. So then, like for somebody like me, even Bob, because we're and I get a kick out of Bob because he is what I would call a sensitive, but he doesn't like to admit it. But there have been times when we have been looking for somebody with ability to go into an investigation with us because we want to get the feelings and impressions. And nowadays, it seems like everybody and their brother is calling themselves a psychic medium. We have a friend who said that they didn't have a psychic bone in their body. Now they're calling themselves a lifelong psychic medium. So for those of us like me who don't have the ability, who is looking for somebody who doesn't, say, have a Yelp page, what can we do to try and get a legitimate person with abilities?
Is this to go on investigations with you, Brian? Is that what you're looking for that reason?
Yes.
Okay, so the thing of it is with investigations that be honest with you, investigations are not really the best thing for a psychic medium to be on. It really is. And it can actually be the opposite. It can be dangerous for them to be even on there with it, especially if there's something that's been really negative, because they have a really easy way or easy chance for them to be attached to. So, to get somebody that will actually agree to go on the investigation for them, you cannot tell them absolutely nothing. And, you're just going to have to hit and miss on this. I mean, if they're not going to say to you that they're a natural born, like I said to you, I'm a natural born psychic medium. I was born with this. It's not something I developed. It's I've done immense training with this on it. This is my experience with it. I document everything that I do with me being a psychic medium. I don't just hearsay. It's got to be documented. Even with the information that it comes through from whether my guides are from spirit, if you can't document it, I'm not gonna relate it to the person. I'm not gonna tell them that. You have to prove to me first that they're gonna recognize that information. So the fact of it is that that's what you're gonna get from these psychic mediums. They're gonna be willing to do the work to prove to you that they are legitimate on this. You look for somebody that does that. There is training that we can go through, and they should go through just to understand it. This is a whole, mind you, I have to pay attention not only to the people that live in this world, I have to pay attention to a whole nother world of the dead. So I've got a lot of worlds here that I'm trying to balance to make sure that I'm in harmony with everything with it. But if I'm not going to take the extra time to train myself and to do the work, to ground myself, to protect myself, and make sure that everybody else that's around me is okay, then I have no business being in this business at all, because it can be dangerous on it. I know what it feels like to be attacked. I know what it feels like to be slapped. I know what it feels like for my energy to be absolutely drained. And that's my fault, because I'm not taking that extra precaution before I'm going. So you want to look for somebody that's going to make sure that they're going to be protecting themselves and those around them against something that you are unsure of at every time you go to an investigation, that might happen. So you'll watch them. You'll see what type of experience they're going to be bringing forward with you. You'll understand. You know the terminology and the lingo they're going to talk. You're going to see how they are and ask them those questions. Interview them. Just don't let them show up because somebody said they're good. Interview them. Say, hey, what is the situation that comes up? On it. Do you need information that where we're going? I don't want to really give it to you because I don't want you to be, subjective on that. You have to be able to have information that already beforehand that they can bring through. That's when you start really understanding that they do have an ability, they are able to communicate with the other person on the other side.
So go ahead, Pete.
Well, I was gonna kind of go down a different path here for a second. All of us here, Brian, myself, and you, happen to know Peter James. I would like to know, how did you first meet him, and some of the work that you've done with him?
I met Peter by contacting him about how do I stop all these ghosts from coming over to my house. They were just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I mean, and they were, mind you, I got pulled out of bed by my ankles one night, by something that I felt was slithering up my legs. And then I kept feeling my bed shaking back and forth. And then it would stop. And then I'd say something about it. And nobody else felt it. I thought we were having earthquakes. No, we always have earthquakes. But about the third night that I kept feeling this stuff, the covers completely were just thrown off my bed. And I felt something grab one ankle, something grabbed the other ankle, and wham, it yanked me so hard at me. I hit hard on that ground. So, it only took me a second to get up on my feet, screaming bloody murder, grab the phone, run out the door, and I left the kids behind. They called a friend, and my friend came over and stuff, and her and I were just like holding hands at French because you check the kids. I'm not checking the kids. You go check the kids. They're not screaming. I'm not going back in that house. You crazy? She goes, you got kids in there. I don't care. They're on their own. I'm not going back in there. But so I reached out with Peter in regarding that on it. And, he was such a sweetheart. Right away, he's like, and I sent him through email, and right away his email was answered, was like, here's my phone number. Call me. And so he brought such logic to the plate, on it. I mean, if they're bad in life, they're going to be bad in death. If they're good in life, they're going to be good in death. It just was logical what he would bring. He didn't want to bring anything that was so far-fetched that you couldn't believe in it. You couldn't deal with it and stuff, on it. And Peter he was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
He would help anybody that needed it at any time, anywhere on it. He had this amazing relationship with this ghost that was on the Queen Mary. He had an amazing relationship with the ghost that he grew up with. He had that ability, to bring them through and whether or not, I don't know whether that was his gift to help them cross or whatever it was that he did, but he just had an amazing ability to get them to communicate on it. I miss him every day. But my grandson, I mean, Peter and I we were very, very close and on it. But my grandson, it wasn't until my grandson was born on his birthday and was born the same time Peter was born that all the lights in the room started just going ballistic. And I didn't realize it. I really didn't figure that out until the next day when I thought, what's the date today? Because Peter was born on the 24th of September. And I thought, oh my God, it was the 25th. And I went, oh my God, Peter's birthday was yesterday. That must have been, I thought at first it was my mom. My mom wouldn't do that. But Peter would have. Peter would have caused the lights to go freaking out. I mean, they were really freaked out in the room. So, but yeah, good guy. Good guy.
So you said you and Peter were really close.
Yeah.
How often did you and Peter work together aboard the Queen Mary?
Not very often. Wasn't very often that I worked with him on the Queen Mary. I'd go up there to some of his, his investigations that we do. He had a couple of people that were there that were regulars, but I didn't do a lot. And the only couple really, I think I was with him maybe 4, maybe 5 times. I actually went with him on the Queen Mary to do them. And then he had to stop for a while. And then I went back with him 2 more times. And then he never returned after that. That was his last day of life, was pretty much a couple days from there. But Yeah, not too many times on this, I mean, on it. I mean, that wasn't just the bunt of our relationship. I mean, I went with him on a couple other investigations that he did. Um,
Yeah, I was going to
you know,
ask
I,
you about that.
yeah, there's that one case where they had up in, I want to say it was Northridge or something up there, where these guys were taking Polaroid film and the ghost would write messages on it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was like amazing. And that was not fake. That was real stuff. That was real stuff that was going on. Peter worked on that case. I mean, just little things here and there. But, I mean, it was more or less, we worked at the Queen Mary a couple times just doing, when they had these, big shows that they had.
Right.
Jack Rourke had one, I think Dr. Barry Taft was involved with it and wasn't really real successful.
I think they were called Ghost Fest, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Pat Burns Pat Burns at the time was involved with that too on it because he was a guy that was on TV.
Yeah, Patrick was involved with quite a few of them.
Yeah, on it. But I mean, Peter did TV for a long time too. He was on a lot of shows that he was on. I mean, was very famous for the shows that he did on it. And
if I remember correctly, it was Peter's first interaction with Jackie back in, I believe it was 91, that actually sort of spurred the show Sightings to come out.
You're probably really right on that one. I myself don't remember that first show. I never saw it. But that was something that he was extremely famous for. I mean, it was just, wait, let's go back. Peter was famous for his white hair and that black mustache.
That black mustache, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you knew that was him by just having you spot that. Yeah,
well, here's what I think is so funny about that. I will ask people if they know Peter James, and they'll say, I'm not really sure. And I'd say, well, he was on Johnny Carson a few times, and you'd probably know him if you saw him because he had just really white hair and just a black mustache. As soon as I say black mustache, oh, yeah, I do know that guy. So I always thought that was really kind of funny. You tell people what Peter looks like, they're, oh, yeah, I do know him.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have to take another quick break.
Okay.
But when we come back, I want to continue with talking about Peter and his legacy. So you're listening to the Full Spectrum Project, and we will be back in just a minute.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We are back with the Full Spectrum Project. We have been talking to Tiffany Miles. And when we left for the break, we were talking about Peter James. And Tuesday, I was curious, did you and Peter talk about things that would happen, especially like, I'm kind of focusing on the Queen Mary just because it's something that I know and I know well about Peter. But we had talked a little bit about how Peter's discovery of young Jackie was kind of a catalyst for him to get involved with the TV show Sightings and sort of make him the ambassador, the paranormal ambassador of the ship. Did he talk to you about that first interaction with Jackie at all?
No, he didn't. He didn't talk to me about Jackie, and he really didn't speak about Jackie outside of the ship. And so, there's a big controversy in whether or not Jackie really existed until actually Peter died, and then there was more people that actually were having conversations with Jackie. And I believe that Bob Davis really had an interaction, a very strong interaction with Jackie. But the thing of it is that because people were absolutely kept saying, this is fake. This is not real. This has been staged, yada, 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 in regarding it. But he did talk a lot about Jackie. Now, there was a man, and I don't remember if the man was ever identified that was thought to have that was either very protective over Jackie or kept her prisoner there. But I know that Peter, when I was with him one night when we were in the pool, and he was yelling for Jackie, and I could hear her say, "I'm here, I'm here." And Peter yelling at her, telling her, to get away from that man. He was very concerned about that, about her being hurt by this man that was there, the spirit that was there. And I don't know what his name was. If maybe you guys know what his name was, or it could have been he was ever identified about it. And I always thought that when he died, that would be the first thing that he would have done is to go get Jackie.
Well, the ghost that we believe is sort of depressing Jackie is the spirit that Bob named Grumpy. And one of the reasons that we believe that is one evening Bob and I were walking down toward the pool, and we could hear Jackie singing. We hadn't even gotten into the pool, but we could hear her singing. And as we opened the door, we heard Grumpy give his growl and then heard Jackie just scream. And we didn't hear her again for about 4 or 5 hours later. So that's why we kind of were assuming that it was Grumpy that was kind of keeping her down. But we also know that there's the lady in white, and let's face it, just about every haunted location has a lady in white. And the the spirit by the name of Sarah. This is another one I wanted to ask you about.
Oh, I don't like that one. I didn't like her at all.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you about, because Peter
she didn't like me at
Peter
all.
said that she actually attacked him, scratched him, hit him, and Peter could never figure out why she did not like him. Did he ever discuss that with you?
No, but I know that I felt her slap. She slapped me one night too. And I mean,
Really?
and so, oh yeah, and it burned. It burned. I mean, it wasn't just a slap. I mean, it burned after it felt like a hand slapped me across the face, and then it burned afterwards. But my reaction to that was that thinking that that's who it was. I just said to her, "Can I say bitch? Bitch, it's on. You want to do that again? Next time I will be directed at you, and I'll do that right back." Because it made me so mad that the fact it is, what are you doing? Why would you do that to me? I don't know you. You don't need to attack me. I mean, I always take it personal every time I got slapped anyways from one of them. But Peter himself, on it would say, hey, that hurt. And he'd show that he had red marks, or he'd something that was showing proof that they did do that to him on it. But, the thing of it is with Jackie, the pool areas there, Jackie didn't drown in that pool area. That's not where she drowned in.
Right. She drowned in the second class pool.
No, she drowned in the first class pool, which is up where the library is.
From what Peter said was that he had first discovered Jackie back in the stern of the ship, near where the second class pool used to be, and that's where he first made contact with her. And he wanted to continue talking, and Jackie said, I'll meet you at the other pool. And I remember Peter saying that he wasn't sure what she meant by the other pool until the person that was with him said, well, there's a pool up above. And Peter didn't realize that where they were was where the second class pool used to be. He didn't know that there had been a pool back there.
Yeah, I believe it's a library. It was like they used to show movies in there, but I think it became like a library or something like that on there.
It's the Royal Theater.
I get confused. Yeah, Royal Theater. That's what it is. So I got confused about, because I guess in the heyday, the pool that's still there, with that, with the tile and everything, and that could have been, and the doors that the grand entrance of it was construed as being the first class pool.
Right.
And then the other one was so much smaller that I thought, we're getting mixed up here. So has anybody checked out on the Queen Mary to see exactly which one is the first class and which one's the second class pool?
The first class pool is the one that is still there. It was actually the first class pool most of the time, but then because the third class passengers were in the front of the ship, the third class passengers were given time in that particular pool. And then the second class pool, where Jackie said, according to Peter, where Jackie said she had drowned, was in the back where the Royal Theater was. And it's no longer there.
Yeah. It's interesting on it.
Which is funny because...
Because, I wasn't sure or being real clear about that on it. I do know when they said, I thought that was documented where all those passengers that they've transported, that they stacked all of those cots, on top of each other in the second class pool area, because that was the bigger pool. The second class was bigger pool than it was the first class pool, I thought. But that
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am your host, Brian Clune, and Pete.
And I am Pete Haviland, and speaking for Angie Mohle, we thank you for listening to the Full Spectrum Project.
Thank you all, and we will see you next week. Until then, please be safe. Thank you for listening.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.